he did not agree with their policy all throughout that time. Now, interestingly, recent comments that Donald Trump has made about the Fed are a little bit different than things that he said in the past. He has mentioned the Federal Reserve, they set the playbook, they make all the rules, they are the ones that tell us how the economy and how things are going. I read recently that we might even see 3 rate cuts this year in itself. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's only a matter of when. Donald Trump is no stranger to voicing his thoughts and opinions, even if those opinions might ruffle some feathers. Now, at times, Donald Trump has been critical about the Federal Reserve and policy and decisions that they make. He has even at times mentioned removing members from the Federal Reserve. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss some recent comments that Donald Trump has made about the Federal Reserve, some interesting different type of comments. So before we continue, let me just say that if you like content like this, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this and hit that thumbs up button for me. By now, we should all know that rate cuts are right around the corner. Markets have already priced them in. The Fed has already discussed it with Congress. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's only a matter of when. Now, Jerome Powell is the chair of the Federal Reserve. He is the figure or the person that we see most often, and he holds a very important position. Now, at times, Trump has voiced his frustration with the Fed. One particular time from 2017 to 2019 when he was serving his term and the Fed was raising interest rates, he let them know that he did not agree with their policy all throughout that time. And the reason why it's so interesting is because historically speaking, presidents and politicians will not too much comment on what the Federal Reserve does, or they will just kind of let them do their thing. And the Fed has always said that they have their own agenda. They have their own policies and that are not affected by politics, elections, anything of that sort. They say that what they do, it's for the American people, it's for the American economy. Now, if you agree with that or not, that's your own opinion, but the Federal Reserve has time and time again, even when Donald Trump has made these comments or other things have happened, Jerome Powell is very specific. The policies that we make, it has nothing to do with the election. If it was an election year or not, it is not going to affect our rate cuts. What is going to affect our rate cuts is how is the economy doing. They try to stay out of politics as much as possible, operate as a whole separate entity from our whole political system. And for the most part, I tend to agree with that. I think even in a heated environment, when things are crazy, like during the COVID pandemic, and there is a political agenda or at times of an election. Now, I know a lot of people are critical of the Fed, and they have reasons to be and to not trust, and I understand all of those things. But I do think, for the most part, that the Federal Reserve does not act because of what politicians tell them to do. They act because of their own agenda, their own separate way of thinking and doing things. Remember, the Federal Reserve, they set the playbook, they make all the rules, they are the ones that tell us how the economy and how things are going to go. Now, interestingly, recent comments that Donald Trump has made about the Fed are a little bit different than things that he said in the past. He has mentioned that he would if elected, he would let Jerome Powell serve out his term, which goes till about 2026. And he said, especially if he was doing a good job. Now, this is sort of a warming up type of comment that if Donald Trump was elected, he wouldn't try to shake up the Federal Reserve or anything of that nature. He would let the man serve out his term. He would let them do their thing. He did mention that he thinks that they should hold off on rate cuts till after the election. He doesn't want rate cuts to affect the election one way or another. He wants a fair race between him and Biden, or whoever ends up getting nominated. It's probably going to be Biden, but he does not want the rate cuts to happen before the election. Markets and every economist that you talk to so far think September is when it's going to happen. And the Federal Reserve themselves, they would not hold off until the election just because it's an election. But Donald Trump warming up to the Fed, understanding that, if they're doing a good job, he's just going to let them do their thing. He's not going to try to affect it. The man will voice his opinions, which he is entitled to do just like any of us. But warming up to the Fed, warming up to Jerome Powell in particular, which he has mentioned in particular, Jerome Powell is somebody that he wants to do things differently. In this situation, not the case, saying that he would let him serve out his term. I think that these are smart, reasonable comments coming from Donald Trump as a presidential candidate, just kind of letting people know that, the Federal Reserve rate cuts, the economy, it's important. It's important to each and every one of us because it affects us on an individual level. Donald Trump letting, if you guys are doing good and you guys are taking care of business, that is fine. He will focus on other things and other agendas that he has reasonable, smart comments to make, made it in the news. But I do not think that the Federal Reserve is gonna wait to cut rates. I think they have their own agenda. They have their own time frame that's based on economic data, especially the job numbers and how they come in the next month or two. I think that is really what's ultimately going to drive. I read recently that we might even see 3 rate cuts this year in itself. And I don't know if that's the case. We're going to have to wait to see till late summer, early fall before things get rolling. I think it's going to be a 0.25 here and there. And, I've heard maybe 200 basis points total, but over an extended period of time. I think you're going to see small rate cuts and then wait to see how that affects data. Remember, we don't want inflation to heat up too much either, because if rates start to get lower and people start flooding the housing market, prices never really drop for houses anyways. And if you just let people go in with low rates, you're just going to heat things up again. You want to do it the right way. So slow and steady, careful. It's, you don't want to mess this thing up. If you like content like this, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this and hit that thumbs up button for me.